Well, I mean, I'm not actually all that interested in Satanism per se. The sort of history of modern Satanism begins in 1966 with Anton LaVey. He's a very interesting guy, creative guy. But I wasn't particularly interested in that. Although, I did write a book about the claim in the 80s that Dungeons and Dragons was satanic. So I did have a background in moral panic and the idea that kind of Satanists are hiding under our beds, right? This was all in the most recent season of Stranger Things that kind of gave a lot of people a refresher about what it was like to be a teenager in the 80s. I got interested in the Satanic Temple specifically because they were doing something that Satanists had never done before. They were going out and demanding basically the same access to the public square that American Christians basically take for granted, right? And so I first really noticed them when they said we want to build a statue of the devil of Baphomet to put up at the Oklahoma State Capitol. And here in Texas, our Capitol does have a Ten Commandments monument, and it's a rather interesting Supreme Court case that said that that was allowed. So I was familiar with this, and I called Lucian Greaves and I just said, "Are you serious? You really going to build this statue?" And he said, "Well, we crowdsourced the money and we can't give it back. So if I don't build a statue of the devil with it, I'm defrauding people. So I must go forwards, right? I can't get out of this." And so I published this for the online magazine Religion Dispatches, and my editor said, "Hey, people love the antics of these Satanists. If they do anything else, let me know." And so I kept covering some of their different campaigns for years, and sort of watched this group evolve. But people kept telling me, "Oh, it's such a funny scam," or "They're so obviously trolls," or things like this. And what I saw was these people are actually very serious. Regardless of how serious they were when they started, they're very serious about it now. They're actually willing to risk their lives. I mean, somebody tried to set fire to their headquarters while people were asleep inside of it. I mean, that's a very serious crime. It's lucky nobody was killed. And so I decided to write a book about it. But what interests me is not so much Satanism per se, but the way that by demanding these kinds of political rights, these Satanists have forced a conversation about what actually is religion, like what actually makes something a religion as opposed to a political view or a philosophy or any number of other things. This is a question that religious studies scholars pose all the time, but it's hard for us to get our students to take that question seriously because normally there's nothing at stake in that question. It's an academic question. The Satanic Temple shows, well, no, like whether or not you can get an abortion may come down to what counts as a religion and what doesn't. And then the other thing is religious freedom. Americans love to talk about religious freedom, but since the Satanic Temple has come along, some Christians have said things like, "Well, I don't like religious freedom. Religious freedom is bad if it means that the Satanists can do what they want." And I find this kind of ironic because, as Christians know, in the book of Job, this is Satan's job. Is he's supposed to test you, right? Anybody can say, "I love God." Anybody can say, "I love religious freedom." But do you really love it when it's becoming inconvenient, right? Or when it's no longer fun to have that around? So I find that kind of ironic. But really, what the book is about is forcing these conversations that I think our country probably needs to have. And the Satanists, as I see it, are merely the occasion for those important conversations.